What's going on, guys? PC here, and welcome to another episode of Answer This. Today's question is, what is your favorite third-party game controller? Now, as many of you know, the first-party controller on most consoles is usually the best one that you can get, but in some cases, the third-party ones can be really good. I find this kind of rare nowadays, especially with the PlayStation 3, it seems. A lot of the third-party controllers tend to be really badly rated, which is kind of strange. It baffles me how companies can make such bad controllers for consoles. Maybe it's just because they're harder to make nowadays than they were back in the day. Back in the day with the Super Nintendo, the NES, the Genesis, you saw a ton of third-party controllers, some of which were really good. And today you just don't see quite as many. Maybe, like I said, it may be because they're harder to make nowadays. But anyway, I have a few examples of some of my favorite third-party controllers that are actually really good. For example, this Super Nintendo controller that I have here. I bought this at an EB Games way back in the day, and it's kind of an odd controller because it doesn't have any branding on it. As you can see, it's completely blank. There's no logo or any sort of text on the thing except for the button labels, which is kind of strange. But I've had this for quite a while. It still works. The buttons are actually pretty good. Kind of loose, as you can probably hear there, but they still work pretty good, nice and clicky. It also has some turbo functions, as you can see there. But yeah, I mean, it works. I don't think it's quite as good as the original controller. I can compare it here. The third-party one is actually a bit longer, so if you have big hands, maybe you'll like this one better. But it feels a little bit cheap, not as well made as the original controller, and the buttons don't feel quite as good, but it's still a good controller. If you ever see one, don't hesitate to pick it up because it does work, and it works pretty well. So that's my probably my favorite third-party Super Nintendo controller. Considering it's the only one I have, that's not really saying much, but it is pretty good. But it's not my favorite third-party controller overall, and I'm going to show you that now. This controller I bought at a GameStop back in the day, as you might be able to tell from the actual logo on the front. This is a GameStop branded third-party wireless controller, mini controller for the PlayStation 2. And I've had this for a long time now, and it works really well, surprisingly, because wireless controllers, especially for older consoles, are pretty infamous for being laggy and the wireless for cutting out and not working very well. But this one actually works really well, which is kind of strange for a store brand controller. Although this is actually made by Mad Catz, but the obviously it has a GameStop logo on it, then they licensed it, but it works really well, and I really like this controller. The look of it's really cool with the clear casing, and it just works really well. The buttons feel good, nice and clicky, and it's just a really good controller. I still use it to this day. You can even use it with the original PlayStation 1, and I do use this as my primary controller for the PlayStation 1. I can even use this with my PC. I have a USB to PlayStation 2 adapter that I use to use this on my computer, and it works really well for that as well. So this is probably my favorite third-party controller that I've ever used. So pretty nice controller. If you see one, don't hesitate to pick this one up. So that's a couple examples of some really good third-party controllers. Before I actually end the video here, let me show you an example of a really bad third-party controller, and that would be this piece of crap here. This is a Commodore 64 joystick made by a company named RGA. This is the RGA 1250. This is an absolutely horrible controller. I have actually two of these that came with my Commodore 64, and neither one of them are even... games just aren't even playable with them. The joystick is completely unresponsive. You're lucky if you'll be able to even move your character an inch. It really is that bad. It's a terrible controller. if you see this, do not buy it. It is horrible. It's not worth a penny. Somebody'd have to pay you to buy this. This is horrible. But yeah, bad third-party controller. So that's pretty much it. Those are some of my favorite and my least favorite third-party controllers. So what are yours? Let me know in the comments below, or make a video response if you so desire. And as usual guys, if you enjoyed this video, please comment, rate, subscribe, and thanks for watching.